fellow football nerds, for episode number 220 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread right here on the Eagles Pinpool Network. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, the playoffs are here. We are officially recapping Wildcard Weekend, a Wildcard Weekend, I might add. How are you doing today?
Would you say it was super?
Super Wildcard.
Do you know that they took the super out?
Okay, I didn't. Yeah, it would have been if not for last night's game. Last night's game was kind of a poor ending to what was otherwise, Sunday night's game was pretty bad too. It started really strong on Saturday. And then
3 games.
Starting with the Eagles game, it kind of fizzled out. But the Eagles game was still close. And then the Sunday night game, Monday game, those were not very good.
It's just, I'll never forgive the NFL for taking the super away from Super Wildcard Weekend. If it was Super Wildcard Weekend, maybe the Eagles would have thought it was the Super Bowl or something, and they show up, you can trick themselves. But alas, here we are talking about the Eagles out of here. But we're going to try to talk about all the other stuff a little bit to couch that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just take these games in order. We're going to break down every game from Wild Card Weekend, catch you guys up on all the action if you missed any of the games, give our thoughts on each team moving forward. So let's start Los Angeles Rams at Carolina Panthers. This is a game that the public did not think would be pretty. The Rams were favored by 10. They end up winning 34-31, and so it took a 7-play, 71-yard touchdown drive on a possession that began with less than 3 minutes remaining for the Rams to get out of this with a win. And so they were down late in the fourth quarter, and I think the game started the way everybody thought it would. The Rams jumped out to a 14-0 lead, but the Panthers battled back and took a fourth quarter lead. Part of that is Matthew Stafford injures his hand in the game, and after the injury, he was kind of scattershot as a passer for a while before he really locked back in at the end of the game. I think the biggest takeaway for me from the Rams moving forward is that special teams is going to cost this team a Super Bowl run. They had a fourth quarter punt block in this game that led to a Panthers touchdown on a short field. Obviously, Eagles fans remember the multiple blocked field goals in the game they played earlier this year. It's been a major ongoing issue for them. And so that's the thing I think to watch for the Rams moving forward. For the Panthers moving forward, this is a breakout game for Jalen Coker. He had 9 catches for 134 yards and a touchdown. And I mean, I think if you're a Panthers fan, you've got to be really happy with how this season ended. I know you lose Week 18, you lose Wild Card Weekend, but let's be honest. At the start of the season, you probably thought you were going to be picking top 10 in the draft. And so, for Panthers fans, it's a step forward in the right direction. I think we can be pretty certain you've got your head coach. I think there's still some questions about Bryce Young moving forward, and I think that's fair, but Tet McMillan looked great. You definitely saw some strides from your offense, and so that's got to be a big thing, a big relief for Panthers fans. I'll also mention this game had 4 lead changes in the fourth quarter, which is tied for the most in a playoff game in NFL history. And the last time we saw that was 2018, Brady versus Mahomes. So wild game, great start to Wild Card Weekend. Mark, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the special teams are obviously a big factor. I'll kind of leave it where you left it. It's obviously a big problem, and it has been a big problem for the Rams all year. And I'll brush by, it's just the Rams offense is always going to be so dangerous when you have Puka and Devontae on both sides. I mean, Puka is one of the best players in the NFL, 10 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown. He had 18 targets in this game. And even though he wasn't that efficient with it, when you get 10 for 111 and a touchdown, you take it. I mean, that's just that's how it works. And then the main thing I'm going to focus on is a negative for the Rams, and it's what I talked about coming into the playoffs, and now it has an extra game sample size. But over the last 7 games now, the Rams are allowing 28.5 points per game on defense. And in that stretch, they have played Bryce Young twice, Jacoby Brissett twice, Kirk Cousins, and then Jared Goff and Sam Darnold. Goff and Darnold, solid quarterbacks, but when they're by far the two best quarterbacks of the 7 you've played and you're allowing 28.5 points per game in that stretch, it makes me nervous. So I'm picking the Rams next week, and we'll do maybe at the end we'll give brief picks, but I am still confident that the Rams get by the Bears in Chicago. They're -3.5. I actually think that line should be a bit higher when you consider the fact that Green Bay was just favored in Chicago. They're saying the Rams are only, like 2 points better than the Packers. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Even with the concerns that I have with the Rams defense, that offense is just always going to put up points. I don't see it, and especially with the Bears defense, how reliant they are on turnovers. I mean, we saw for large stretches of that game, the Green Bay passing offense was able to pick them apart. And I think that the Rams are there's not a matchup in the NFC out there that if I was a Rams fan would scare me. But when you have that defense and you have that special teams, you do have to have a little fear of every matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Special teams can swing games, close games, really easily. And I don't think there's anybody left in the playoffs that you expect to get blown out. So we expect them all to be close games. And it's almost like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop on a major special teams miscue.
If there is one, I think it's the Bears potentially. I could see the Rams blowing the Bears out. I don't think, would anybody be surprised if we tune in on Sunday and the Rams get up 14-0 and the Bears just don't come back like they always have? Like, if it goes to the end of the game and it's 28-14 and we just kind of never get that big comeback that we've seen, 7 times now from the Bears in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, whatever that stat is, I don't think anybody would be surprised if the Rams put a hurting on the Bears. But it's only a 3.5 point spread, so maybe I'm overstating that a little bit. But on the Carolina side of things, the Bryce Young thing is fascinating. Well, yeah. One of the more fascinating quarterback conversations I think I can remember in recent years, because it really does feel like I don't really know what their ceiling is with Bryce Young. Like, they have to keep him probably, but you have to decide on the 5th-year option, right? Next year. Yeah. That's an interesting. They're probably going to have to just take it.
Yeah, I think you pick it. If you even remotely think a quarterback's the answer, you pick up the 5th-year option because of what QB contracts are doing. But I think you pick it up. I think you continue to try to build around him, and if he ends up not being the guy down the road, then hopefully you're in as good a position as possible to plug in the next guy.
Yeah, I mean, with Canales, with Ted McMillan, they're built. The O-line's pretty solid. They should be in a solid spot whenever the next guy comes along. But you might get in a little bit of like a Steelers spot where it's hard to ever get that guy if you're picking 20th every year or going 7-8 wins every year. So interesting kind of spot that Carolina's in. I think I think that might be Tyler Shuck's division next year.
Yeah, it's possible. So, okay, let's go to Green Bay and Chicago. Chicago wins this game 31-27, but this game was the tale of two halves. The Packers led 21-3, and then they missed a field goal that would have made it 24-3. So it's 21-3 at halftime. They still have a 15-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and then they lose 31-27, giving up 4 straight scoring drives, while only scoring once themselves and missing another field goal and an extra point. So kicker costs them 7 points in a game they lose by 4. But it's not just the kicker. I think there's some very valid criticism of how LaFleur managed this game. The Packers had a huge lead, and they only ran the ball 3 times in the entire third quarter, while going 3 and out on 3 of their first 4 possessions at a halftime. And they elongated a game that they were winning, giving the Bears ample time to complete the comeback. Jordan Love throws 4 touchdowns, but he only completed 52% of his passes. On the Bears side of things, Ben Johnson was really aggressive early, and it just did not work out. He went for it 4 times on 4th down in the first half, and he converted only once. of the 3 failures, 2 went against the analytical recommendations, and one of those 2 gave the Packers an easy scoring opportunity. They converted. So Johnson, I thought, was a little too aggressive. It didn't pay off early. It got him in a hole. From 6 minutes and 51 seconds left in the second quarter until there were 3 minutes left in the game, the Bears' win probability never got above 25%. It dropped all the way down to 3% at one point. They complete the comeback and win. The Bears now have 2 of the 8 most unlikely comeback wins of the season by win probability models, and they both came against the Packers. So that's kind of wild. Division rivalry there. Caleb Williams now has 7 fourth quarter comebacks this season, which is the most by any quarterback under the age of 25 in NFL history. And he finished with the most passing yards in a playoff debut at 361 since Matthew Stafford in 2011. So the cardiac Bears strike again, or you could say the Packers just blow it again, depending on which angle you want to take. But the Bears survive and move on to the divisional round. Thoughts on this one?
Wild game. I mean, maybe the best Bears-Packers game of all time, given that it's only like the second playoff game they've ever played, or third, whatever that is. And Jordan Love gets them out in front, and you think it's over, and you think, oh, man, what a horrible way for this Bears season to end. They're such a good feel-good story with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, and obviously a team that's struggled on offense and in general for so long. And then you lose to your rival in your home stadium, and maybe you get your pants pulled down and embarrassed a little bit by that team. I can't think of a much worse season much worse way to punctuate what should be a special season, kind of regardless of what happens in the playoffs. And I think if the Bears came out in the wild card round and would have lost to the Eagles or the 49ers or the Rams or whoever they would have played besides the Packers, I think fans would have probably been able to be like, oh, okay, we're still on the right track. But the Packers would have broken brains, I think, in Chicago. They would have erased all the progress that they made this year. So I think given the rivalry, given the hate that's there in Bears-Packers, that throw on 4th and 8 that Caleb Williams made to keep this game alive, down 11 points with whatever it is, 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter before they go score and get the 2-point conversion. That's one of the most impressive and best throws I've ever seen in my life. Going the other way while being tackled against his body, kind of truly, I mean, that's the type of play that had us talking about Caleb Williams as a generational prospect and had us so sure that the Bears should move on from Justin Fields and that the Bears needed to do whatever it took to build around Caleb Williams. And, we wanted them to get rid of Eberflus 2 years ago, and we were rooting for the Ben Johnson hiring to happen. And he has a couple of those plays every fourth quarter, it seems, that just remind you that's why we thought he was so special. And there it was.
Somebody needs to. So two teams need to do something. So the Panthers need to figure out how to bring Bryce Young out of a medically induced coma and tell him in week 1 it's November and the NFL has extended the season to 28 games. So he just plays November football the whole season. And the Bears need to do the same thing with Caleb Williams and convince him that the first quarter is the fourth quarter and he can just play that way the whole game, because both of those guys whose their careers will be forever interlinked because of the trades that happen there. But Bryce Young gets stronger as the season goes along. Caleb Williams hits his final form in the fourth quarter.
Caleb weirdly has a link to so many quarterbacks. It's he has the link to Drake May and Jaden Daniels. Even if you want to say Bo Nix, you can throw that in there. He has the link to Bryce Young and even Justin Fields. He is. It's funny how many people he gets compared.
How many degrees of separation are you from Caleb Williams?
Yeah. It's weird because he's only played for one team. You wouldn't think that. Obviously, he was the number 1 pick. But funny enough that is the case. But I will say, I do think there's a chance this is an emotional high that Chicago can't come back from. I think this. I know that they've done it all year long, but I do think that there's a chance, that comeback used all the juice that you need, and you need every possible bullet in the gun to beat the Rams, in my opinion, who DVOA still thinks are one of the best teams of all time, despite the struggles down the stretch, despite Carolina almost beating. They still think that they're a special team, even with the special teams and defense issues. I am skeptical, like I said in the Rams segment, in the Bears moving forward past this game. But I think if you're a Bears fan, no matter what happens in that Rams game, you have the biggest win you've ever had over the Packers. And that's, you have an off season to enjoy that. From the Packers standpoint, I know it's sexy right now to hate Matt LaFleur. And I know that he definitely made a couple bad calls. I don't like the way he coached this game down the stretch. But for anyone to be saying Matt LaFleur should be on the hot seat, it is insane to me. He's 76-40-1 over his 7 years coaching in Green Bay. I just think, if we're falling over ourselves for Kevin Stefanski, and I like Kevin Stefanski, but Matt LaFleur is far better than Kevin Stefanski and far more interesting than Kevin Stefanski to me. And that goes the same for Mike McDaniel, who I'm a defender of and think shouldn't have been fired, but also getting head coaching looks. If Matt LaFleur got fired, every single team that has an opening should prioritize him above whoever their top candidate was.
He would be number one. Yeah, I would imagine, unless there's just some interpersonal conflict. He would be number one for every job opening. So
100%.
Okay, let's go to Sunday. Bills at Jacksonville. The Bills win 27-24. Josh Allen was evaluated for a concussion in the first half. He injured his throwing hand, and he just played a nearly perfect game. He goes 28 of 35 for 273 yards and a touchdown. There were even a few dropped passes in there that makes his numbers not even look as good as they should be. He also rushed for 33 yards and 2 touchdowns. No throw was better than his 36-yard throw to Brandon Cooks off his back foot with a free runner in his face. Like, the cornerback had that covered and broke off on the underneath route because he didn't think that throw was possible, and I can't even blame him. It was a phenomenal throw. Josh Allen's superhuman at times, and he was awesome in this game. The Jags' run game worked great in this one. They averaged 6.7 yards per carry, but they kind of got away from the run. Like, when the run game is working so well against a team that has a bad run defense, and it's a one-score game for the entire game, I don't know how you only call 23 run plays. Trevor Lawrence throws 2 picks in this game. The first was a really bad read. The other was at the end of the game. It seals the game, and they were unlikely to score anyways, but it was a high ball that went off the receiver's hands to seal the game. And so Trevor Lawrence now has 7 interceptions in 3 career postseason games. Meanwhile, the Bills get their first road playoff win since 1992, which is a crazy stat.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, Mark, what's your takeaways from this one?
I am so impressed by Buffalo. And when I say Buffalo, I mean Josh Allen. I mean, I am so impressed by Josh Allen. I picked Buffalo in this game, but I did not bet this game because I was so just confused about this game. So I think Jacksonville is the better team on paper from, guy number 2 through 53 on the roster, or the defense and the special teams. It's just everything but quarterback. And you saw that, play itself out. Not that Trevor was terrible in this game. He was up and down for sure in this game, whereas Josh was, nearly perfect. I'd say. I don't really. I watched this game from for the first 3 quarters, or the first 2.5 quarters in the parking lot at the Eagles Stadium, and walked in. Saw parts of the third, on my phone walking in. And then out the fourth quarter, got to our section, and I as soon as I got there, they put the game on the big screen, so we saw the fourth quarter. By the way, what do you think the rooting interest was in the link for the couple thousand people that were in their seats early? I thought this was interesting.
Were they pulling for the Jags?
like 90% for Buffalo.
Okay.
Like,
I could see both ways. Like I could see Eagles fans that kind of started to pull for the Jags when Doug Peterson went there, but I could also see Eagles fans being fed up with like the Trevor Lawrence hype comparative to like Jalen Hurts and just really liking Josh Allen. So I could see
yeah,
either way.
I think that's a big part of it. I'm in a group chat I didn't even know this was a thing, but they always talk about how all Eagles fans hate Trevor Lawrence, and I was like, I didn't really even know that was like a thing. I knew about Herbert, like there's always like the Herbert Hurts stuff that people bring up, and they're in the same draft, and whatever. Anyway, my point being, I was surprised at how heavily everybody was rooting for Buffalo. I'm sure there was some gambling interest there, and people want to bet on Josh Allen, and but I think it also just shows that Josh Allen's the face of the league right now, and I think he's earned the right to be the face of the league. And I think I said this on the show last week that Buffalo, this was the game that concerned me maybe more than any on the potential schedule for Buffalo. I think this might have been the toughest matchup because the Jags are so good at scheming the run game. And Liam Cohen has been so good as a play caller. But then the Jags got away from the run in this game. Like you mentioned, I was watching the fourth quarter just stunned that the Jags weren't giving the ball more to Travis Etienne. I'm doing quick math in my head. They had 14 carries for 118 yards for the two running backs, for Etienne and Tootin. Tootin had 4 carries for 51 yards. How do you not get the ball in his hands more? It was stunning to me the way that they were just calling pass after pass after pass down the stretch of this game and letting Trevor throw the game away. And this is a game that was never farther than they were never down more than, I guess they were down 6 at halftime, or down 6 right after halftime. Besides that, they were never down more than 3 the rest of the game. There's no reason they couldn't have been running the football more when it was so successful all game. And it's not like you mentioned, it's not like it was so successful and it wasn't something you should have planned on being successful. That's how you beat Buffalo. They can't stop the run. That's been the story all year. We've talked all year about how when Buffalo loses in the playoffs, it's going to be because someone gashes them on the run. And Jacksonville did it, but they didn't do it enough. It's unbelievable to me that they didn't run the ball more.
Yeah, that was hard to believe, honestly. I got a comment here from Yako asking, "Is Trevor Lawrence the new Dalton line?"
I don't think so. Now,
no, I think he's comfortably above the Dalton line. I'm not sure who that is. That'll be a fun topic for the offseason when we do our QB rankings. I'm not sure who the new Dalton line is, but Trevor Lawrence is well above that, I think.
Well, I need a better. There's got to be a good name for it, but Bo might be.
Yeah.
Bo might be the bow line, the bow quater. I don't know what the.
We'll workshop that.
Yeah, the bow. Just top of my head, that was the name that came to my head as kind of like if I'm saying maybe the 16th best starting quarterback. Top of my head, it's probably Bo.
Yeah. So, all right, let's keep rolling. 49ers come into Philadelphia and knock off the Eagles 23-19. We're not going to in-depth this game because there'll be other podcasts that do that. We typically don't even talk Eagles games, but there's so few games, we're going to mention it here. Typical Eagles game, honestly, the Eagles scored a touchdown on 2 of their first 3 possessions, and then they went 3 and out on 4 out of their next 5 possessions, with the only drive that wasn't a 3 and out being a field goal drive that started on the San Francisco 48-yard line because of an interception. Eagles offense just hilariously outmatched by a team with the worst pass rush in football and practice squad linebackers they signed and promoted this week for the playoffs. So just a damning indictment of Kevin Patullo, of Nick Sirianni, and of everything that they have done all season long. For the 49ers, they had no success running the ball early. Eagles played a lot of nickel personnel to their heavy sets and stopped the run just fine. I think a big game-changing moment for the defense is when Jordan Davis went down with an injury in the second half. The Eagles started having to play more base defense because the 49ers started having success running the ball, and that really opened things up. Brock Purdy was really good in this game, but he did not make the best throw in this game. That goes to Juwan Jennings on the trick play to Christian McCaffrey. Juwan Jennings became the only wide receiver in NFL history with more than one career playoff passing touchdown. So there's a good trivia question for you one of these days. So the 49ers will advance and move on. They do lose George Kittle to an Achilles injury. I haven't not seen that confirmed to be a tear, but it seemed pretty obvious watching that he tore his Achilles. So the shorthanded 49ers do move on, but they sustain another injury as the injuries continue to mount, and now they will travel to Seattle in the second round of the playoffs.
I don't even want to, like you mentioned, we barely even talk Eagles on here. There's so many podcasts on this channel and network that are going to deep dive into the offensive problems and, should Sirianni be fired? Who should they hire for offensive coordinator? And I'm sure at some point we will do some more offensive coordinator talk if it drags out and they don't hire someone the next week or two or whatever it is. I'm actually just going to bring up something that's not being talked about as much, and I'm not blaming the defense. I'm not blaming Vic Fangio. The offense is the problem. The offense is why people are focused on the right thing. I'm not saying they're not. I was stunned about the fact that the defense made 3rd and 10s look so easy for San Fran. It's just not something I saw on the sheet of possibilities, and the way that Ben Johnson tore apart our defense about a month and a half ago or whenever that was, Black Friday. And then the way Kyle Shanahan was able to pick us apart, 6 for 11 on 3rd down yesterday. And I think 4 of those on 3rd and 10s or more. I believe either 1 or 2 touchdowns on 3rd down. Again, I was in the stadium, so that I'm a little bit iffier on the stats, I think, than I normally am. But it just 3rd and 10 it felt like 3rd and 4. Like, in a way that I can't, and I think that the stat that Sheil Kapadia had was the worst success rate that Vic Fangio's allowed as the Eagles head coach, or the Eagles head coach, as the Eagles defensive coordinator since he's been here in the last 2 years, was in the San Fran game. So all that talk about Fangio owning Shanahan, I think we learned that maybe things had changed in 7 years or 8 years, however long it had been since Shanahan had played him. And props to Shanahan because, I think a lot of people give him grief about not winning and, not having a Super Bowl and not, people just, I think Shanahan's the best coach in the league. And I think people don't want to put him in those conversations because they don't like him or because we've talked about it. He gets people in the doghouse. He has some interpersonal issues. I'm not saying that there's not issues, but he is, when you see him tear apart a defense that has been so dominant, that held Josh Allen to 12 points, 3 weeks ago. I just, without George Kittle for half of it or however long it was that Kittle was out of it, incredibly impressive. I mean, he's the coach of the year this year, in my opinion, and he backed that up even more so in the first game. And obviously, he pulled the pants down of Nick Sirianni and outcoached circles around Sirianni and Patullo in an overall standpoint. But from a Fangio standpoint, I did not think it would be that decisive of a victory for Kyle.
Yeah. Fangio has gotten Shanahan quite a bit in the past. It's been in the distant past. I did not think it was the defense's best performance. However,
one sack also.
Yes, that's a big one. The pass rush was problematic. They didn't blitz as much as I thought they would, which would have been a changeup, but it's a changeup I called for that I thought they would make. Overall, though, defense played well enough to win. You would have liked for it to be better. And, I said on Birds of the Round Table when we previewed this, I picked the Eagles to win. But I said that I think this team will go as far in the playoffs as the defense can take them.
Yep.
But the moment the offense has to score 21 points, it's over. And I was off by 3 because they would have needed 24, but they didn't get to 21 anyways.
And there's so many. If I'm just doing like Eagles fan cope section here, Jake Elliott makes the extra point, you can kick a field goal at the end of the game, and we're talking about overtime. If the defense holds that 49ers drive at the end of the game that goes 6 or 7 minutes of the clock to a field goal, maybe if they call that holding on, was it Nolan Smith coming off the edge on the touchdown?
Yeah. Jalen Carter pancaked on that touchdown, by the way.
Yeah. But
they ran a stunt to get him open, and he ended up on the ground.
Blatant hold on, though, on the edge of that. And I'm not going to do a whole ref thing, but the San Francisco 49ers having one penalty in the entire game was, I mean,
and the one penalty they got flagged for was a bad call.
It was.
That's I remember at the time I was like, Jalen finally gets a call. It's a bad call, and
everybody's complaining about it.
But whatever, because there's been so many missed ones there. But yeah, not why the Eagles lost the game. The Eagles lost the game in October when they decided just to keep Kevin Patullo, and they deserved it. But it was a disappointing end of the season. Yeah.
So many sliding door moments. And there were just I did feel like the tackles, especially of San Fran, got away with a lot. Trent and the other tackle got away with a lot on whoever you want to say, Jalix, Nolan, whoever was coming off the edge. I felt like they were getting held, and there was nothing we could do about it. It's unbelievable that Quinyon had the game. He had 2 interceptions. Obviously gets burnt early in the game, but 2 interceptions. You stopped the run completely. Like, that run game was pathetic for San Fran, and you still lose. There's a lot of... Yeah.
Quinyon gave up 74 receiving yards on the opening drive, which is the 3rd highest total for any game this season for him. And then the rest of the game, he gave up 0 receptions and had 2 picks, which is just wild.
Yeah, he was awesome. Obviously struggled on the first drive, but I thought that those were, like, if you go back and watch them, they schemed it well. I mean, that's Kyle Shanahan, opening drive stuff. Like, they know what to do. So, as for... Actually, let's do San Fran first. As for San Fran, do you know the line for next week?
I would guess Seahawks minus 4.5.
7.5.
Ooh, I my first thought was 6.5, and I was like, that feels high. I can see it. I mean, of course, they just played Week 18, and it was a really good game, but now San Fran's down another offensive weapon. They don't have the pass rush, which is traditionally the way that you have just decimated Darnold. I think it's a good matchup for the Seahawks.
I do too. I'm going to take the 7.5 because I think it's still going to be a low-scoring game. Like, I actually like the under at 45.5. So if I'm liking the under, generally 7.5 points is a lot of points in under games. So I'm on them, and I do think, like, if you ask me, are they live in the game? Can they win the game? I would say yes. So if you're saying 7.5 point dog, and I think that they have a chance to win the game, I feel like I'm obligated to bet it. But the Eagles side of things, just real quick, we're not going to, like I said, we're not going to dive too deep into it. I think there's 3 big names for the Eagles going into the offseason to focus on as a fan or free agents. And if I'm forgetting anyone, Shane can add him in. I don't think Nakobe's even worth bringing up because I think when you drafted Jihad, that ended any chance that he's, here going forward. So I think the 3 big names are Reed Blankenship, which I think is up in the air. I have no idea what to expect in terms of what his market is and in terms of how he even values him beyond just being a plug-and-play starter on a cheap contract, which is what he had. Jalen Phillips, who, like, I feel like we're usually able as fans, Shane and I, and everyone here at the network, I think we're generally pretty good at knowing who Howie's going to keep. He's pretty like systematic about it over his time. Like, he keeps his guys that he drafts who make him look smart a lot of the time, except unless it's Milton Williams or a guy like that who just gets paid so much that it's hard to justify and you can't keep him around. Jalen Phillips, I don't know if we've ever had any, like, this is like a new test case for Howie and how he would handle this situation. Because have we ever traded for someone mid-season who is even close to the player as Jalen Phillips?
No, most of their mid-season acquisitions just are terrible and make no
Yeah.
impact.
So it's not usually a decision of, are we keeping that guy if they're a free agent? Whereas Jalen Phillips, they got on such a discount. But do you keep him around? You have Hunt, you have Smith. You're gonna have to pay Carter. You're gonna have to pay maybe Jordan Davis. You're gonna have to pay Ojomo. Like, you're gonna not pay all those guys. So it's I probably lean towards Phillips and Blankenship both being gone if I had to guess, and I would lean towards Goddard being here. Dallas Goddard's the third name, and that's my passion project this offseason is basically just yelling at the Eagles to keep Dallas Goddard because I don't think that there's a path to replacing him. I don't care how expensive it is. I don't care how long term or short term it is. You have to have Dallas Goddard on the roster next year.
Yeah, I think Blankenship's gone unless he takes a very low deal, which is possible. I think his play fell off this year, and so maybe he stays home. But
The hope is that he just doesn't have as much interest as he's hoping.
yeah, I would love for him to be around. I love having him out there, but you're not going to pay him $12 million a year.
No.
Jalen Phillips is a tough discussion because the Eagles' pass rush wasn't good all year, and a lot of that boils down to Jalen Carter. But they don't have a dominant edge rusher, and Phillips is the closest thing they have to that. And Phillips got pressures at a high rate, but he never converts pressures to sacks. Yeah, he does, flush the quarterback into other people sometimes, but there's probably concerns about his injuries and the general athleticism. Trading for that guy midseason is way different than giving him a long-term deal, so I'm not sure how the Eagles will approach that, but I would say unless he just loves Philly and is willing to play at a below market rate, I would imagine he can get more on the open market than the Eagles will give him too.
Did you get a comp pick for him or no?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not positive. I'm not a comp pick guru, but I think you do.
Neither am I. I thought I remember people saying oh, well, when we traded for him, maybe we get a comp pick back and it's not even, a big deal that we traded the pick for him. So how he could be, if that's true, how he could be looking at it like that. And, it's not like he's losing anything in his mind, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see.
I do think that the pressures are valuable, though. I think I've grown up.
Yeah.
There was a time in my life where I hated those types of players, and I'm like, just get the quarterback, get the sacks. But I do think Phillips does heat up the quarterback, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I think he qualifies for a comp pick, but I could be totally wrong. So that's a little outside my wheelhouse.
If you go look at any free agent list that's out there, he's top, 5 on any
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to have a bigger market than the Eagles will give him. But okay, let's move on to Sunday Night Football, and this is where the quality of the games goes down. But Chargers at New England. New England wins 16-3, and it was a slow start for Drake May. In the first half, he was 6 of 15 passing for 95 yards and an interception. He did rush for 52 yards, though, so he had that going for him. In the second half, he went 11 of 14 for 173 yards and a touchdown. He did get strip sacked once, but the Patriots recovered that, so it kind of limited the damage. Justin Herbert was just battered in this game. He sacked 6 times, hit 11 times, held to 159 passing yards on 37 dropbacks. Just more of what we've seen all season with the Chargers in terms of Justin Herbert just getting killed by the lack of an offensive line. Ramondre Stevenson had 10 carries for 53 yards for New England. He also led the team with 75 receiving yards. Far surpasses Travion Henderson in this game, who had a hard time getting going. And then on the Chargers side, Omarion Hampton was active in this game, but he only played 2 snaps. It was Kamani Vidal who got most of the reps, and just nothing went well for the Chargers in this one. The Patriots, offense didn't look great, but they do win and move on, and they'll get to host a second-round playoff game next week.
Besides the Eagles, by the way, I went 5 for 6 this weekend on my picks. Had a good gambling weekend, but my bracket outside of had the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Before I went homer mode, we had Pats over Rams, which is what I'm shifting back to. And I feel like that there's a lot of conversation coming out of this game that it is kind of negative on the Patriots, being like, oh, it was ugly, and it was only because the Chargers stunk. I get that they only scored 16 points. They had 381 yards. Like I think most of the time you're going to score more points. They were too conservative, probably kicking field goals and things like that. But you're probably going to score more points with the amount of yards they were able to put up. And they ran the ball pretty well, 5 yards per carry. Ramondre and May were both really solid. Even Drake May had 268 passing yards, really good in the second half. I'm not concerned about the Patriots' offense going forward. Like, I think we know Drake May is awesome. They're going to put up a lot of points and yards most of the time. I would, if anything, I'm taking this away as a massive win for the Patriots defense. And I know that the Chargers O-line's a joke. This is kind of why I haven't taken the Chargers seriously down the stretch as a contender or even as a team that could possibly win a playoff game. And the Patriots defense was something we weren't really sure about. If you look at all the metrics, they've played the easiest potential schedule of all time against offenses. There was that chart out there about QB EPA, against teams, and the 31 teams were above the chart, and the Patriots were the one team below the chart. And they had played an incredible list of backup quarterbacks and bums. But for them to show up and show out like this, even with bottom one offensive line in the NFL, I think is impressive. And I'm going to choose, instead of crapping on Herbert, instead of crapping on the Chargers, I'm gonna take this away as a positive for the Patriots. The fact that the Patriots are only a 2.5-point favorite against Houston, and I feel like Houston's getting more credit for beating Pittsburgh, a team that they were up 7-6 on in the fourth quarter, than New England is for dominating the Chargers, I think is wrong. I think the Patriots impressed me more than they made me nervous in this game.
Yeah. You could alternative. It would have been funny if the Steelers would have beaten the Texans, and then you could have potentially had the Patriots in the AFC Championship game and still make the argument they haven't played anybody good outside of the Bills, which is who they will probably match up with in the AFC Championship game, which would be kind of funny. But also, while you were going there, I went and confirmed. Field Yates reported that Jalen Phillips would qualify for a compensatory pick. So I would imagine that's the route it's going to go.
Yeah, and I looked it up on ChatGPT because the one comment asked me to, and it said likely a third rounder, based on expected contract value. But so yeah, you traded they traded a third, right, for Phillips, and you get a third in 2027. It's just trading a 2026 third for a 2027, which Howie does all the time. So it's not even, that doesn't affect me at all. So I was going to say this during the Bills segment, but I saved it since we had this segment coming up. I said, I think a month or two ago at this point, that whenever the Patriots and Bills inevitably play in the AFC playoffs, whether that's the wild card or the divisional round or the AFC championship, that team would win the AFC. My official addendum and announcement to that is, whenever those two teams play, which will be next week, because both teams are going to win this week, in my opinion, the winner of that game's winning the Super Bowl, not winning the AFC. I think the AFC is going to win the Super Bowl this year over the NFC. I think it's going to be Buffalo or New England. Part of the reason that I was so confident in New England before the playoff bracket was because I thought this was the exact path they'd get. I thought they would get the Chargers and then Texans, by far the two worst O-lines, and maybe an average defense can prop itself up against those, and the offense will be able to do enough. But what I will say is, Buffalo did really impress me. So if we do get to a Bills-Patriots game, I obviously have my future on the Patriots to win the AFC, to win the Super Bowl. They were my pick to win the Super Bowl, all that stuff. But I have no confidence in New England against Buffalo. That would be a total toss-up game for me, total 50-50 spot. And I think whoever came out ahead would go on and hoist the Lombardi. So I really do think that this is going to be kind of a crowning of either Josh Allen or Drake May at the end of this thing.
Yeah. Adam asked, will ChatGPT know that? ChatGPT will achieve sentience and replace Mark and I by next year. Like, it's coming for our jobs, but we're hanging on as long as we can over here.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have even said its name. It's gonna be like, oh, Chalk Talk. I can do that.
I can acquire that. Yeah. Well, let's go to Monday Night Football. Houston at Pittsburgh. Maybe ChatGPT should have taken the Steelers quarterback job, but Houston wins 30-6. And the Houston offense really struggled to get out of its own way. C.J. Stroud threw an interception and fumbled 5 times. 2 of those were recovered by the Steelers, so 3 takeaways for the Steelers defense. But the Texans defense was awesome. They sacked Rodgers 4 times. They intercepted him once, which went for a touchdown. They made him fumble twice, recovered one of them, which they returned for a touchdown. All in all, Aaron Rodgers put up more points for the Texans than he did for the Steelers. 14 points via the fumble 6, pick 6. 6 points for the Steelers. The run game got going for the Texans with Woody Marks rushing 19 times for 112 yards and a touchdown. Nick Chubb rushed 10 times for 48 yards. Christian Kirk had 144 yards and a touchdown as a receiver. And they just dominated. I mean, the offense could not get out of their way for a little while, but they eventually just pulled away. This was 7-6 in the fourth quarter, like you mentioned, before Rodgers just kind of imploded. Nate Tice tweeted this out. There have been, per True Media, there have been 283 instances where an NFL quarterback has had 20 or more pass attempts in a playoff game since 2013. Aaron Rodgers' game tonight ranks last in terms of dropback success rate. It was 21.2%. It also ranked last in EPA per dropback. So literally the worst quarterback game we've seen in the playoffs since 2013 at least. And if he retires, as everybody kind of expects, his final career play will be a pick 6 in the playoffs. So honestly, Tomlin should have put him back out there on that last drive instead of Mason Rudolph, just so that wasn't his last play. But if it draws to a conclusion, if he retires, that will be the way he goes out, is a pick 6.
Is he definitely retiring?
He hasn't. He has dodged that question, but the Steelers absolutely can't bring him back. No team should employ Aaron Rodgers next year.
I don't think he's retiring. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like he answered some questions. Like when I was listening a week or two ago when he was talking about it, I was like, that doesn't sound like a guy who's ready to retire. He should. You're right, and I don't think anyone should be in on it. But there's so many teams who have such desperate needs for quarterback. I do think someone would want him. Man, that is, yeah. I'm very happy that the Steelers are out. A lot of Steelers fans taking great pleasure in the Eagles losing on Sunday because they have a made-up rivalry in their minds with the Eagles. So I don't care about the Steelers at all or hate the Steelers at all. Shane knows in the past I've been a Steelers defender some years and in the preseason and in their over-unders and stuff. But I have definitely turned a bit on the Steelers fans. I felt like this year and since the Super Bowl, they've been very annoying about the Eagles. But bygones be bygones. Anyway, moving on to the Texans part of this. That defense is awesome, but I do think part of it was they got the best possible matchup for a quarterback who was – we said it from week 1 on. When he played a pass rush that could get to him, he got happy feet, and he started throwing at feet, and he started getting scared and started not wanting to be hit, and even still he was hit a ton. So I think there was never a chance that for Aaron Rodgers against this Texans defense, and I think the Texans defense will get got a little bit more next week than they did this week. But how do you feel good about this Texans offense moving forward? I mean, didn't Stroud had 5 fumbles?
Yeah.
In that game, he's the second quarterback of all time.
Technically, some of those were like, at least one of those was a snap when he wasn't even looking at the center, and that still gets charted as a QB fumble. But there was a lot of I think the silver lining, if you're the Texans for this game, is that you did move the football. You got a running game going. Stroud took 3 sacks, but for 6 total yards against a pretty good Steelers pass rush. And so I think you could glean some positives that if you subtract some of those turnovers, which you can't do, but we know turnovers are, turnover luck is a thing. They had a fumble in Steelers territory in the first half. They had a fumble deep in their own territory in the second quarter. Stroud threw the interception that he threw was in the red zone, and so like you moved the football, and so maybe you can kind of say that. But yeah, it's tough to feel great about that offense.
Yeah, I am. There's not many times that a playoff line stuns me, and I'm not gonna bet too much on it because I have these futures on the Patriots. I am stunned that you can get Patriots -2.5 right now. I guess no, never mind. It's went back up to 3. But I just and by the way, like from what I've seen, it's early, but just from like early picks and the gambling people I follow and kind of that community, people love the Texans to beat the Patriots in that game, and it stuns me. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm being dumb and I'm just looking at it and I'm looking at Texans at Patriots. There's no way to me Houston's going into New England and beating Drake May and Mike Vrabel, but especially with the way that offense looked. I know the defense is awesome. I know that they had a fun fourth quarter. You know, after it was 7-6, they put up 23 more points. But I don't see that offense getting to the AFC Championship.
Yeah. Yako chimed in and said the Steelers haven't had a good quarterback since Big Ben. Maybe they saw Rivers on the Colts and they can go try to re-sign him now. So yeah, maybe they try to bring Big Ben out of retirement and do it for the memes.
He mentioned Kyler in a comment, and it does sound like that is a possibility, even though it seems like Kyler would be the least Mike Tomlin player of all time to me. But hey, maybe Tomlin's got to deal. I mean, I guess Aaron Rodgers isn't the most Mike Tomlin guy ever, even though they ended up seemingly getting along.
Yeah, I just have this funny picture of Mike Tomlin going from meditating with Aaron Rodgers to playing Call of Duty with Kyler Murray next year.
Yeah, cold weather Tua.
Yeah. Pittsburgh. Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's briefly look ahead then. So we've got the wild card or the divisional round matchups. The NFL totally botches the scheduling. They give both Buffalo and San Francisco a short week, going Sunday to Saturday, to face off with teams who had a bye. It's just ridiculous that the NFL can't figure out how to schedule playoff games fairly. Houston also has a short week, going from Monday to Sunday to take on New England. The only game that is the same rest is the Rams and Chicago on Sunday, both of whom played on Saturday the last time around. It's like, it's not hard. Put them on Saturday again, so they've got the normal week, and get this Buffalo San Fran game to say. It's my pet peeve with the playoffs every year. We don't have to litigate it here, but I think it's stupid how they do that. But the first game will be Buffalo at Denver, 4:30. Denver is favored by 1.5. Who do you like here?
I love Buffalo in that game. I will just say it's harder with the NFL because of the reseeding to do some of those. I don't really care about it when it's a team with a bye. But like with Seattle and Denver, I don't really care. I think the team that has the gripe is Houston against New England, but they want to have the Monday night game. I don't think they should. I think that game should be on Sunday. There should be three Saturdays.
It's really easy. Put one conference plays on Saturday through the playoffs. One conference plays on Sunday through the playoffs, and you don't have to deal with any of this. And
I agree with you.
Obviously, somebody gets an extra day rest going to the Super Bowl, but there's an extra week, so it doesn't really matter. Like, that's how you do it. Instead of having 3 of 4 games played off of a short week. By the way, I mean, the Eagles rested starters in Week 18, and they lost anyways, so it didn't matter. But had they played their starters, they would have played with a 1-day rest advantage in the wild card, because San Fran got a Saturday game in Week 18, which those also shouldn't exist. And then they would have had to turn around and play a short week game this week. So just figure that crap out. They're not going to, though, because the money is far more important than competitive fairness. But
if I was Houston, I'd be the most upset of any of them, because you're playing a team that played. Like, there shouldn't be an advantage. And that's something that's not being priced in, also, in my opinion, to that game. But I am going with Buffalo. Like I said in the Bills-Jags segment, like I said last week, I think, when we previewed this game a little bit, I was more nervous about the Bills beating Jacksonville than I would be if they had to go match up with Denver. I think you could even make a case that Jacksonville is a little scarier of a matchup for them with the way Liam Cohen's able to diagnose or able to design the run game than maybe even New England could be. And I'm high on New England, and I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl, obviously. But I thought that Jacksonville matchup was especially tricky, and I think it proved itself out. They just went away from the run game. But Buffalo being able to win that game and get by that matchup, I really am confident that they'll be in the AFC Championship next week. The Bills and the Patriots are by far my two most confident picks this weekend.
Yeah, I will also take the Bills. We can talk the Texans, New England. We'll talk AFC first. I will also take New England in that game. So I'm with you. I'm Bills, Patriots, AFC Championship game is what I have predicted out here. I feel good about Josh Allen going against any defense, and so then you look at Denver's offense in particular. I remain scared of Bo Nix. And maybe they play really well. Maybe Josh Allen doesn't have the best game, but maybe the hand injury lingers, which is, I think, the bigger concern. But he played well after the hand injury in this game. So I don't think you're too concerned about it. So I got Buffalo. I've got New England. And again, maybe Houston's defense really gets after Drake May in this game. But I also have Bills, Patriots for the AFC Championship game.
And I think Houston and Denver's defenses are very good. You can get them. Like, we've seen multiple teams get those defenses. And even Seattle, I mean, the Rams got that defense for 37 points. I think Seattle's on a different level than those two defenses, to me personally. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what the metrics say about that, to be honest. But I do like Buffalo to be able to put up points on them. And like you said about the Bo thing, if you had Denver with a good running game, like, if you were able to kind of lean on the run game in Denver, I think it's a different conversation. But what, are they going to give RJ Harvey 20 carries? Like, I think you're going to have to throw a lot in this game if you're Denver. And this is the biggest reason that I've been confident in this matchup all along for Buffalo, is that they can't run the ball, really. Denver, how you beat Buffalo is by running it right up their throat. And I don't think Denver can do it. They don't have the personnel to do it.
Yeah. Okay, then on the NFC side, we've got San Fran at Seattle on Saturday. Seattle's favored by 7.5. I don't like that line, but I do like the Seahawks. I just have a hard time. Like we talked about earlier, the thing that gets Sam Darnold is pressure. 49ers have one of the lowest pressure rates in the NFL. And, I mean, I know we just saw this be a close game and the Seahawks offense struggled, but I expect the Seahawks to win this game, especially now that George Kittle is done for the year. If Kittle was playing, I might feel a little differently, but I'll take the Seahawks and their defense in this one.
Couple teams that like to settle for field goals and things. I think there's going to be a lot of settling for field goals. Give me 16-13 Seattle. I'm taking San Fran to cover the spread. I do think they can win the game, but I think it's going to be a lot of field goals, low scoring, and Seattle wins a close one. Maybe they have to go drive and win it at the end, or stop San Fran from driving to tie it or win it at the end. I think it's going to be down to the wire.
All right, and then Los Angeles at Chicago. The Rams favored by 3.5. I like the Rams. I really like the Rams. Man, they've scared me the last couple weeks. And maybe they got that scare out of the way, and they'll just come in and cruise. I think their offense is so talented. The questions are with the defense, like you mentioned, but I will go ahead and take the Rams in this one. I think they're more proven than the Bears, and eventually it feels like the Bears, like, fourth quarter theatrics have to run out. So give me the Rams.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I covered it in our Bears segment, but I do think that was a little bit of an emotional Super Bowl for them. I do love Ben Johnson saying, I do not like the Packers. And when he was asked about Matt LaFleur, he wouldn't say he like. It is funny. He won't just do like he's a great coach and I respect him, but it's a rivalry. Like, he won't say any of that. He's like, I do not like them. Like, yeah, it is. I like it. If a Philly coach did that, I think we would love it. So, shout out Ben Johnson. But I am going with the Rams. I love the over here. I think this is going to be points. I would guess, like, give me 38-28 here. Like, I think the Rams are kind of up the whole game, and the Bears kind of keep it in range, but it can't really get the stops in order for this to be a win.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. We've got the same conference or championship matchups. We've got Rams traveling to Seattle. We've got Bills traveling to Patriots. Both would be divisional rematches, which would be kind of wild. This would be the third time we've had those matchups this year, but it would give us a lot of talk about. So, Mark, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I don't, nothing coming to my brain. Oh, here's what I'll say. This offseason, wide receivers are a premium, in my opinion. I feel like there's so many teams that I look at and think, man, that team needs a wide receiver. And go look at the free agency, wide receivers, not a lot of them. Alec Pierce might get like $80 million. I'm not joking. Like, the receivers are all going to get so much more than anybody's comfortable with what's going to happen. And I'll just tell you right now, I'm very, very early in my draft prep, going through some stuff, still kind of stacking things position by position a little bit. And I can't even, underwhelmed isn't even a word to tell you how I feel about this draft. I think it's the worst draft in the last decade. But having said that, I will have all of the top 5 consensus receivers: Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, different order for whoever you're looking at. All 5 of those guys I will have, I think, in my top 15, maybe top 20 on my big board. My big thing this offseason will definitely be prioritizing wide receiver in this draft, partially because free agency is not so good, and partially because hard to find really good wide receivers. Just ask Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Darius Slayton got paid $12 million last offseason.
Exactly. And there was more than that. I can't remember all the names, but you see each year now the wide receiver market is exploding. And I don't know if I guess we're seeing some guys get drafted high. I don't know if it's adjusted enough in the draft, I guess is what I'd say. We talk about this a lot, and you'll hear Shane and I talk about this with positions. And sometimes where guys get drafted is far ahead of where they get paid at a position. And sometimes where guys get paid at a position feels ahead of where guys are being drafted. And right now I think we're in a period where wide receivers are being paid more fairly than I guess they're being drafted, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think they're being drafted high enough and valued high enough in the draft in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Darius Slayton, by the way, paid $12 million. 538 receiving yards this season. And that was in a year when the Giants' number 1 receiver went down and they think they found their franchise quarterback. He put up 538 yards.
Yeah. I will say, Wan'Dale Robinson, I didn't realize, I was looking through some fantasy stuff. He was like the 10th wide receiver in fantasy this year. Had a pretty incredible stat line, Wan'Dale Robinson. So did not really think he was I didn't know him in fantasy this year. Wasn't as locked in on the Giants as maybe I should have been. But incredibly impressive season from Wan'Dale. Just a shout out randomly there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 220 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on this show, and we know that you do, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcasts. We'll have lots of stuff coming for you in the off season, but that's all post Super Bowl. We will continue to cover everything in the lead up to the Super Bowl. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Shane Half NFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL, and we will catch you guys next time.